Right, we are live now. September 2020, and I'm joined by Mr. Tafazo Sambiri. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, pardon? Igambangwe.
Fantastic, fantastic. So today we want to quickly talk about what happened yesterday. There was an MDCT meeting where the chairman, Morgan Committee, announced that the MDCT is going to contest all future elections under the name MDC Alliance, which automatically means Nelson Chamisa cannot use the same name. What is your view on this announcement?
Actually, I'm really not surprised by this announcement. I think I saw this thing coming. Because remember, when these guys went to court, they won the right to use, they won the title for MDCT. They were given that name by the court. So it means they were the legitimate MDCT, right? So the MDC Alliance elected, putting MDCT as the principal partner, as the main partner, right? So by virtue of them being the MDCT as per the court judgment, it gave them power to take over the name MDC Alliance. If you ask me, I would say it was just natural that they would inherit the name or they would lead the MDC Alliance based on the judgment that was issued by the Supreme Court. So I'm not really surprised. I saw this thing coming immediately when the judgment was announced.
Okay, so what are the options that are available to Nelson Chamisa, given that the MDC Alliance name is very popular all across the country?
It's very unfortunate that he finds himself in this situation, but he has very limited options if you look at it. I saw a tweet from the Secretary General, Carlton Wende, saying they will fight. I don't know how they are going to fight. Is it going to be a fight on the street, or they are going to fight using the ZANU-PF field court? So I think for me, the option is to rebrand, to come up with another brand. That's last week also. Zimbabwean politics is based more on personalities than institutions. This is why even Morgan Tsvangirai, when he split from most guys back in 2005, he went to in 2008 elections using MDC Tsvangirai. So by virtue of that, the MDC led by Nelson Chamisa can simply rebrand, come up with a different name, and campaign using that name for all elections and 2023 elections. If they are going to fight and fight using ZANU-PF courts, more or less the same outcome, they will never get that name back. And anything associated with the MDC, them winning any court case that is anything to do with MDC. So the best way for them is to rebrand.
Okay, how would rebranding work? What would Nelson Chamisa need to do to rebrand?
I'm not a marketing person, but from my experience, rebranding is just to do coming up with a fresh name, giving the party a fresh identity. Well, right now the MDC name is populated, it's very popular. There are so many MDCs, there's 99, there was whatever. So I would say it's a process of whereby they have to come up with a new name, new structure. They can keep the symbols, keep the slogans. All they just need to do is find a new name, an alternative name to MDC Alliance, and then it could be MDC Chamisa or whatever they decide to call it. But I think if they are going to act now, if they're going to make informed decisions now, it will make sense. Then they have enough time to market the name, the electorate. So come 2023, the electorate is aware that this MDC or this party is the one that led by Nelson Chamisa. So their delay in rebranding, coming up with another name, it might cost them again come 2023. And we're still waiting for them to give a clear indication as to what they mean by the fight. How are they going to fight it? What instruments are they going to use to fight the system, the regime? So I would just say they need to rebrand, come up with a different name. It's simple, easy. If more did it, they can also do it. Or they can go back to the MDC only name, which Professor Wilson Nube won in 2005. Because he still has that name, he still has legal title of that name. They can simply go switch back to MDC only. It's to work out.
Okay, but is it worth it to contest this election?
You mean the 2023 or the by-election?
The by-election.
Look, personally, I would say it is not really worth it, but at the end of the day, I think it is worth it. They also have to prove to the people, to prove to everyone that the real MDC, the real people that won those seats are former MDC Alliance MP, the likes of Chato Mwende, Amos Chibaya. So in order for them to put out a big political statement, I feel they should contest, despite the irregularities. I feel like they should contest those by-elections. All of them, they should contest them.
Okay, but yesterday we saw the children of Morgan Tsvangirai. That was Vincent Tsvangirai and Manasa. I think it's the young brother of Morgan Tsvangirai. They attended the meeting, which was called by Thokozani Kupe and Douglas Monzora. Does Nelson Chamisa still have a leg to stand on? That is continuing the legacy of Morgan Tsvangirai.
So, look, I don't think a few kids, two individuals, or three individuals from Tsvangirai family can do away, can withdraw the fact that Nelson Chamisa still has a leg to stand on as far as the Morgan Tsvangirai legacy is concerned. If you look at it, what makes up the Morgan Tsvangirai legacy is us, the voters, is the people that voted for him. And those people, that cause, Nelson Chamisa, I believe he still stands for that cause. So I wouldn't say because of the individual that carries the Tsvangirai surname, they attended a Coupe meeting, then that means Nelson Chamisa is a non-entity, is a non-player to the late Morgan Tsvangirai's legacy. I would disagree with that. Those are just individuals. And besides, the legacy of Morgan Tsvangirai was not based on those three individuals. There might be family members, of course, we agree, but to say they are the key to the legacy of the late Morgan Tsvangirai, I would definitely disagree with that.
Okay, so you are saying that Nelson Chamisa is right to say he doesn't want to agree with the Supreme Court ruling and he must go it alone.
He has to go it alone. He is allowed. It's a democratic society. Nelson Chamisa is allowed to go it alone. But if he did go it alone like what he wants to now, what he's been doing, then the logical thing is for him to rebrand, to give his party a new name. So him and his comrades have to agree on a new name that they give this entity to. So in other words, it's no longer worth it to fight for the MDCT or for the MDC Alliance. After all, he had more votes than his MPs, which made up the MDC Alliance. So on his own, he's a brand, and we should always bear that in mind. So he can wait alone. He has the power, he has the voters behind him. It's simple, it's easy, but the longer you delay it, to complicate things also.
All right, so Tapazo, I'm joined by, in fact, we are joined by Mr. Jethro Rusike. And Mr. Rusike, how are you, sir?
I'm good, how are you?
Fantastic. So, Mr. Rusike, you heard what Tafazo said. He said that it is better for Nelson Chamisa to form a new political party or to start a new name to go into the by-elections. What are your views on that?
This is something like that I've always said from the past. If you watch my videos, I've alluded to that. Since the Supreme Court ruling, I said that it is very, very important for Nelson Chamisa to rebrand, because if he doesn't rebrand, that will it's going to, and I said it vehemently, that the MDC name it's already been soiled, and it's going to be difficult for him to have a leg to stand on the MDC name. And back then it didn't make any sense. There was no recalls that were made. It was still like the Supreme Court ruling, and I said that was the good time for him to rebrand and start a new party. Then the damage that has been done right now, it's enormous. Like, he doesn't even know who is fighting on his corner at this point in time. As much as he was a brand back then in 2018, I don't think he's still a brand to reckon with right now, because of the elements that have left him and the elements that were congesting him. But we now discover that those people, they are not in agreement with Nelson Chamisa at all. They are abandoning him. And the other thing is that as much as he has people that support him, but according to the legislations and the how the country is being run, Nelson Chamisa, the only best bet that he had back then when the Supreme Court ruling was made was to form a party immediately before anything else. He was supposed to sit down all his cadres and say, "We've lost this one. Let's just form a new party." And everyone who was in the MDC Alliance, and that's when he was going to see his true supporters and people who are believing in his idea. But probably it was not something that his advisors did not give him.
Right. So Tapazwa, Jethro made two key points. The first one, which is to say, Nelson Chamisa has lost support. He no longer has as much support as he had before. The second one is that he delayed. He took long to make a decision. And this ended up, so everything is catching Nelson Chamisa by surprise. Do you agree?
Good afternoon, Jess. I hope you're doing well. Your analysis is spot on, and I definitely agree. Although it hurts me, I feel like the formation that is led by Nelson Chamisa is more reactive. They react. They are not being proactive. Because if you look at that judgment, it was obvious they were going to lose a lot of things. They were going to lose the name, the assets, and a lot of other stuff, and the recall that are taking place right now. So it would have made sense for them to immediately strike back, to say, you know what, guys, let's rebrand. Obviously, they're going to be by-elections. So now they're going for by-election. The nomination court is going to be sitting in a few days to come. They don't have a name. They don't know what they're going to do. The Secretary General, when they're saying he's going to fight. How are you going to fight? Because if you go back to the same courts, they will say there was a judgment that was issued earlier on. You guys are not the MDC. From your own party. So I agree with Jezo. They were supposed to form their own party immediately there when the judgment came out, but they delayed. And one other aspect that he touched on, the second part of what he said Nelson Chamisa has lost support. To a certain extent, I agree. He has lost support. Nelson Chamisa has lost support. But however, I disagree with Jethro in the sense that Nelson Chamisa did not lose support because his other comrades have left him, the likes of Morgan Committee, Douglas Monzora, and a few other guys. Although these guys were powerful, they were figures to reckon with. I feel they are not really politically important for them to take away his popularity. The popularity that he's losing popularity because of indecision. He's not failing to make good decisions. He's not being clear where he stands. So supporters are doubting him. If you go back to 2018 on the anniversary of the MDC, he said that we are going to take action, we're going to strike back. And it has been the same rhetoric since then up to now. He's been talking and talking, there's no action. He says we will lead, but people are asking him now, it's been 2 years since 2018. What exactly are you going to do? How are you going to lead? What is going to go on? We have lost the building, we have lost the name. Our MPs, our councillors are being recalled. What is your reaction? How are you going to respond? So the response from Nelson Chamisa has not been very pleasing to me as a supporter and other supporters. And that is how he's losing the support. People are doubting him to say, are you really a good leader? If you look at it, if you look at posts by MDC leaders, if you question them, if you ask them questions, they'll come back to you saying, you know what, if you want, form your own party. But as a leader, if you're elected by people, someone asks you something, you go and say, you know what, form your own party. In the first place, you're a leader, people put you in that position because they believe you deliver on certain variables. If you're failing to deliver on certain variables, then you're lacking, your leadership skills are lacking. And this is where Nelson Chamisa and his gang, they are losing support. If you look at it, like what I mentioned last week, to do with the Zimbabwean Lives Matter, 31st July protest, the whole top leadership of the MDC, including Nelson Chamisa, did not even say a thing. They did not even issue a tweet, even a hashtag 31 July. So people ask you questions like, if you're a leader, how come you're not here? We're supposed to see you here leading us. We had novelists like Tisi Dangarembwa taking over. You know, there's a vacuum in the opposition space. They're issuing a lot of tweets, but there's no action. They've lost a lot of ground and they failed to respond. Even now, when this statement came out yesterday, they haven't really responded. He hasn't responded. So as a supporter, you're asking yourself, what kind of a leader is he? You know, he's not coming to the shore. 2 years now, he's not striking back. He's not giving a good response. So what Jethro said is true. He's losing support because he's failing to act. He's failing to respond the way we expect him to respond. It's a sad thing that we compare him to Morgan Tsvangirai because Morgan would respond to any situation. And Nelson Chamisa is not doing that. He's just talking and talking. And of course, we pray. But people are saying, as much as we pray, we need to do action on the street also. We need real action. So he's losing a lot of support. And a lot of credibility is being lost.
Okay, we still haven't answered this question of delaying to act. Like yesterday, the MDCT issued a statement, and the response from MDC Alliance through Fadzai was that we are going to continue as MDC Alliance. Do you think Nelson Chamisa is consulting with anyone, or he's just going according to his smaller circle?
Look, I don't really know if he's consulting, but judging by the past actions, how they responded to the recalls, the losing of party assets, the head office, the headquarters, I don't think there's any consulting going on, unless maybe they are doing behind the scenes. I really don't know. I must say I really don't know if he's consulting or he's not. I'm not so sure about that.
Right. So this one is for Jetro. Sambiri said there is poor communication within the MDC. What can they do, the MDC Alliance of Nelson Chamisa? What can they do to improve communication?
What I feel personally is that Tafazo has said that delaying in acting is it's actually a derailment as well, in some sort. But also the issue of communication is very, very important. That when there is something that has happened, you must be able to react decisively and take your stance. Of course, if you must delay also with a strategy, because you cannot delay without a strategy, because from all this time, we have not been seeing a good strategy that they would bring to the fore to say, we have come up with this strategy and we are going to implement A, B, C, D. So that means that it's almost like this situation for me, it's almost like a relationship that is there between a voter and a party is almost like that one of a relationship between a man and a woman. If a man is saying, I will marry you, I'll marry you, I'll marry you, and it's in the rhetorics, there is no action. There is no woman that is going to wait for that. So I feel like you cannot say that I will do this without a strategy. So MDC, when they delay in announcing anything or making a statement, or even if they make a statement without any decisive action, it makes their credibility to go down. Like you are going down in terms of credibility as a party. So those are some of the things that I feel like right now I don't see MDC coming back from this. And the time that they had, they could have acted back then. One, they could have garnered support that could have given them. They could have used the assets that MDC Alliance had at the headquarters. They could have garnered support and used the assets that they are still that are still in MDC, and people could have sympathized with them and they could have supported them through the GoFundMe and EcoCash. It was still in place. All those avenues, they do not have them now. So for me, it's going to be very, very difficult for MDC to come out from this one because they are not respecting the voter.
Okay. So, Mr. Rusike, I'm very happy that you've joined us this afternoon, and I'd like to ask you to drop off from the stream. But before you go, is there anything else you want to say?
All I want to say is that as much as we, there is this vacuum that I'm feeling inside in terms of the opposition in Zimbabwe. Yes, we find out that there is mismanagement and corruption in ZANU-PF, but as an alternative, let me borrow the words of Nelson Chamisa, as an alternative to ZANU-PF, you must be able to read your enemy, and this is what I felt wanting in our opposition in Zimbabwe, that they have not been able to read their enemy, because you can't win any war if you are not be able to read your enemy very well and plan accordingly so that you can outwit your enemy. So this has been a vacuum for the past 17 to 20 years on the opposition side. So I think that if any opposition is going to come in Zimbabwe, they really need to have a better plan than the one that MDC has been showing for the past 2 decades.
Right, Mr. Rusike, thank you very much. And I'll talk to you again very, very soon. So I'll be continuing with Sambiri, Tafazo Sambiri here. And I want us to start where Jethro left off. You have been talking a lot about strategy. In fact, you did an audit of the voters' roll during 2018, and you produced a detailed report, even in video form, advising Nelson Chamisa. Do you think Nelson Chamisa is strategic? Has he taken the advice that you gave?
It's very sad. I say it's very sad. I would say this with a heavy heart. But Nelson Chamisa and these guys in the MDC formation, whichever formation name they call themselves, they are not strategic. And I know a lot of supporters will bash me for this, but they are not strategic. You mentioned a very important point, that the point that has to do with the voters of 2018 election. MDC failed to utilize the voters roll of 2018, although they made noise about it before it came out. When it came out eventually, they did nothing about it. They never spoke about it. And judging by 2018 election, you could tell that there was no strategy, whether there was sabotage or what, but there was no strategy. Even we are seeing it now as Jethro has just said. There is no reaction from the MDC side to say, how are we going to counter the recall of MPs? How are we going to counter the recalls of councillors? How are we going to counter the losing of party assets? Are we going to set up a special purpose core fund to get another building or to rent another building for at least the next 5 years? There's nothing like that. That is lack of strategy. But to say it is Nelson Chamisa on his own, it will be bad. It will be putting a lot of stuff on his shoulders. We have to look at the team that is surrounding Nelson Chamisa also. And I'll touch again on this organizing secretary Amos Chibai. He is the one who's sitting with the party strategy, and he's failing to come to the party. Then I'll go to the Secretary General Carlton Wende also. He issued a lot of tweets today, this morning, and they were contradicting. He said in one tweet, you are going to consult and hear what people want. Then another tweet, he said, we are not going to rebrand. We are not a part of rebranding. We are going to be fighting. We'll be fighting all along. And I'm saying, how have you been fighting all along? For the past 2 years, show me how you've been fighting ZANU-PF. How have you managed to say, no, I will put ZANU-PF in a corner? As far as I'm concerned, the only people that are put ZANU-PF in a corner is ordinary citizens. And what Jethro said also is very important. There's a vacuum in the opposition space. Nelson Chamisa and these guys are failing to utilize the opposition space. They are not coming to the party. Although they are really supported, we support them, we vote for them, but they are not speaking to us as voters. They are not implementing what we want them to implement. They are not reacting the way we expect them to react to ZANU-PF. And all this is because of lack of strategy. I don't even know where they're having meetings now. The party doesn't have a plan to get a building. They don't have a plan to get offices. Okay, it might not seem like a big idea, but I've been talking to guys that are in rural areas, and they ask me, what happened to the building? Where is the party? Is the party still functioning? So you might say, no, they may have meetings on Zoom, but to some supporters in a rural area, they hear that MDC does not have a building. To them, the MDC is gone, it's dead. So it is very important for them to have a structure. It's not only a building, it's not an office, but it's a symbol. Like Alpha was a symbol, and they lost it. So they need to break fast. Say, guys, we need $500,000. Let's set up a special goal fund to get this building at least by February next year. Happy, but you are not seeing that from the MDC side, from Nelson Chamisa formation, and all this point to a lack of structure. They expect things to just happen, but in politics, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And exactly that's why they are failing every day. Every day, MDCT is issuing statements, and they're failing to react because they don't have a plan. They don't have a counter strategy. As much as they say we have a plan, there's no plan, because for 2 years, if you are failing to react to your opponent ZANU-PF, and now you're failing to react to other opponent, another MDC formation, it means you don't have a strategy. And yes, I agree, they don't have a strategy. And the backstop to Nelson Chamisa, the fish starts to rot from the head. Everything is on him. He's the leader, and he's the one who's in charge of strategy deployment. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no strategy. He's failing to implement a strategy. He doesn't have a strategy at the moment.
Okay. So yesterday, Morgan Committee laid out the key priorities for MDCT, which is to rebuild grassroots structures and to win the next by-elections, which are, so the short-term strategy is to win the election in December. What can you say are the key priorities for MDC Alliance of Nelson Chamisa?
I would say the same thing that were mentioned by Morgan comment. They are key also. It's very vital. I saw this in 2018. There are virtually no structures. Of course, there are structures, right? But if you go deep down to say certain areas like Mutoko South, we're there trying to audit the voters. So you ask who's representing this one, who are the ward chairmen here, who are the ward executive, you don't get it's non-existent. So what we have in MDC, we have certain structures, and when they say structures, they mean provincial structures. And these guys, if you look at it, they are based in Harare, they are based in urban areas. They are not there right inside where the rural electorate is, where the rural people are, right? So when we talk of structures, there should be solid structure to say we have a chairman for this province who stays in this area. There's no point in having a chairman for Mutoko or for Mashonaland East Province, a person who stays in Harare. They should make sure that they do the restructuring of the party and make sure that the structures are dominated by people that are resident in those areas. This will have you avoid a situation by you importing a candidate from USA, from Canada, from South Africa to come and represent you, as I saw in 2018. So yes, I think for me, short-term plan is for them to have structures. It's important for them to have structures. They have the support, they need structures. And also what they need to do is to make sure that they have members and database. Right now, currently MDC is comprised of so many supporters, but they're not members. So it is very important for supporters like me to become members of the party so that when certain decisions are being made, we can question them, say, you know what, we don't want this decision. Or when there are by-elections, there are primary elections, we can question and go on and say, you know what, we don't want this candidate, we want this candidate. As it is right now, it is easy for ZANU-PF to infiltrate MDC. They're only few guys at the top, right? So they go, ZANU-PF goes in, buys these guys, they bring in their candidate that will backfire again, and then they will switch after 2 months. So it is very important for them again to build a membership database of, I would say, maybe in the short term to medium term, at least 1 million supporters. So they create a big base. When it's time for primary election, they make sure that every member who gets to vote for their candidate in the primary election. That's another way of infiltrating, of creating a barrier, of creating some structure, some support base against infiltration.
Okay. So what you have just said now, it takes us to Fadzai. Is that a responsibility to deal with communications and building the grassroots structures? Because I do not know who is responsible for building this database as far as the new MDC Alliance is concerned.
Okay, whether it's MDC, the new one or the old one, whatever name you want to call it, I think they're still more or less using the same constitution. And if you go to their constitutions, excuse me, the person who's responsible for building membership is the organizing secretary. And in this case, it will be Amos Bai. I don't know on the other Kupe formation who's there, but on the National Chamisa movement, National Chamisa side, it will be Amos Bai. He's the one who's charged with implementation of database, registration of new members. Fadzai Mayeri, that's not a responsibility. She is the spokesperson of the party. She speaks on behalf of the party. She can speak on behalf of structures as per instruction of a word coming from Amos Bai. But in her own capacity, she has no power to build structures or database. That's not a responsibility.
Okay, so now let's end with the issue of dialogue in the GNU. Komichi said they are going to be having dialogue with all Zimbabweans and they want to be a party of solutions. And then Dr. Kupe, she asked Mnangagwa that they want a GNU because the last GNU was successful. What's your comment on those 2 points?
Okay, it's interesting when guys like Morgan Komi say they want to be a people's party, whatever they call it, a party for the people, right? It's a good thing. Every opposition party or every party, every political formation wants to be there for its people, for its members, right? It's a good formation, but they have to prove to others they have the members first. You cannot talk of a GNU when you're getting into parliament via backdoor, right? We cannot allow that. So who are these guys representing? Right? Who are they speaking on behalf of? They don't have the supporters. Thokozani Kupe cannot say she wants a GNU. She had less than 55,000 votes in 2018 elections. So who is Thokozani Kupe representing? There are millions of Zimbabweans like that say we don't want a GNU. We are fed up with the GNU. We cannot have a GNU simply because we had a GNU in 2008. No, it doesn't work like that. We cannot just have a GNU to fix every political problem. What we need are holistic changes, a whole lot of reforms for us to move forward as a nation. GNU don't fix anything. As far as I'm concerned, 2008 GNU was a success because we had guys that were dedicated, that were working for the country. And it's unfortunate most of these guys, they are in Nelson Chamisa formation. So even Thokozani Kupe goes back and joins Mnangagwa as a GNU, they are still going to be a SANPF project. It's not a GNU, it's still a SANPF government to me. Because Thokozani Kupe and Morgan represent anyone. If you look at Morgan Comey did not contest directly in 2018. If you look at it again, Monza did not contest directly. Pariwa did not contest directly. They are all the proportional representatives. No one really voted for them directly. So in what capacity are they saying they want a GNU? And if the GNU in 2013 and 2018 worked, it doesn't mean the GNU in 2022, 2021 will work. It doesn't work like that. If it doesn't have the buy-in from the people, it do not work. Simple.
Right, I get your point, and I want to show you something, and I want us to discuss the Matabeleland dimension. In Bulawayo, there were 160,000 voters, and Thokozani Kupe, in total, she got 45,000 votes. Don't you think Nelson Chamisa could be underrating Thokozani Kupe in Matabeleland? Because there is a tribal dimension, and people feel that Chamisa is disrespecting Thokozani Kupe because she's from Matabeleland. Don't you think Nelson Chamisa's strategy will crumble if he doesn't have Matabeleland vote?
First of all, I don't think Matabeleland vote is that what called tribal, really linked to tribes where you're from, whether you're Shona, Ndebele, Karanga. I think Ndebeles are very smart, they are very capable. If they were really tribal in 2008 election, they would have voted for Simamakon, because Simamakon had the backing of Tabengwa, but they voted for Morgan Tsvangirai. So speaking of the tribal dynamics, I don't think Thokozani, she's not a key player, because if you look at it on the Nelson Chamisa's side, his movement, he has quite a lot of Ndebele speaking people, a lot of the guys, we talk of the likes of Wostu Nube, very influential post in his movement. So he won't lose. He's not disrespecting the Ndebele vote simply because he doesn't want to talk with Kupe, he doesn't want to join Kupe. And bearing in mind, Kupe does not have Ndebele speaking Zimbabwe. It will be too much for us to say every Ndebele person supports Kupe just because she's Ndebele. I know Ndebele people, they are smart. That's why even the likes of Kambani, they voted for some of the Shona names. They are not really that tribal. In fact, I don't think the Ndebele are that tribal. They still vote for Shona people. So it has nothing to do with someone talking Ndebele or having a Ndebele surname. And I don't feel like Thokozani Kupe represents Ndebele speaking nation. She doesn't represent the Ndebele people of Zimbabwe. There are so many Ndebeles out there, and Thokozani Kupe is not the most influential of them. If you had mentioned maybe Chief Dwayne, I would say, yeah, that's an influential figure. But Thokozani Kupe, someone was just elevated by Morgan Tsvangirai to be vice president only. She doesn't hold a lot of. You spoke of the 2,000 votes that she had. Yes, some voted for her, support, but also might be a protest vote. We don't know, right? So we will only tell if she has enough political clout in the next election. But judging from 2018, she doesn't hold that clout. She formed her own formation. She failed nationally to get her votes. And mind you, the Ndebele are not only in Matabeleland, they are all over Zimbabwe. So if she got more than 300,000, she has a lot of support in Matabeleland region, but 50,000 is small. But it might even but that most of that voted for Thokozani Kupe. It's not because they wanted to vote for Thokozani, but they were confused because of the name. The name only changed towards election. So there was MDCT, which people knew all along. The Nelson Chamisa formation is switched to MDC Alliance. So for us to create all the votes would be wrong. Might be opening something. They might be opening confusion. Because remember, when you walk into the ballot box, it's a bit dark. No matter where you stay, it's a bit dark. You're confused. You see MDCT. Some people didn't really know. Just knew MDCT. So they might have voted for it without knowing, like, is this the real MDC?
Okay. Mr. Tavazo Sambiri, I've really enjoyed talking to you. And for those people that are watching, I'm very sorry today we're having a technical issue. So I cannot see your comments and we cannot see how many people are watching us. So this is because of a technical issue. It will be sorted very, very soon. So I want us to wrap up. And the question that I want to ask you is, if you were Chamisa right now, what would you do step by step between now and 5 December?
Okay, if I was Nelson Chamisa, I would have a lot of sleepless nights. I would be very busy working on strategy. I would pull up a victory. The first step that I would do is acknowledge the fact that I've lost the name MDC Alliance. In fact, come up with another name. After that, I'll try to restructure the part. I'll call in the secretary, the organizing secretary and secretary general, and we'll look at the secretary of the party. We say, guys, we need a home, we need an office. We need agents, we need a campaign strategy for the by-election. Because if you look at the by-election, it's like a mini election. So many seats that have been contested. So it could be a litmus test for him again. And then after you have consulted with your lieutenants, you come up with a good strategy that speaks to the people, what the people want. You come up with a name, you address issues that are being raised by the voters, the people that vote for you, for the people that are members of your own party. From there, you go into the grassroots, you start campaigning, and you do a word-by-word campaigning, not a nationwide rally. I think word-by-word campaigning is more effective than these big megastar rallies. Then you know at least the by-election is in the bag. Then you can move on and implement other strategies as you prepare for 2023.
Okay, what name would you give the new party?
It's a bit tricky, but I would say even Democratic Change Party.
Okay.
Democratic Change, something. I think it makes sense, I think any name that is with democracy, something like that, is a movement for democratic change or something like that. I'm not so sure.
How is it? Democratic Alliance?
Democratic Alliance is a good name also. It's a very good name. DA, Democratic Alliance, but now we have DA that is here in South Africa, and then it's known for racist. So you might be associated with some other brand. They might call you the DA of Zimbabwe, and they allow calling people party. So Zambia, we have a few there with that one, but it is a good name after all.
All right, Mr. Tavazo Sambiri, thank you very much for joining me again today. And you have been joining me every week, and you'll be joining me every week. I've asked the guys in the MDC Alliance to come and talk here on the platform. Unfortunately, we have not agreed. We've not managed to convince them to come. So far, I'm having other political parties, but I cannot find anyone from MDC Alliance who is available to talk on a weekly basis. So unfortunately, I'll continue to have other people. Like this evening, we're going to be having probably someone from MDC team. But it's my wish that we have as many people as possible who get the official position, because the technology now allows us every week at no cost to talk to each other and to reach our audience. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for this platform, and you've been doing amazingly well. And I see a lot of comments, people saying Gabangwe is an unfair project, but having worked with you for so long, I can tell you, you're only a media outlet, and I wish Zimbabwe could understand that if you talk against MDC, you are not a ZANU-PF project. You need to rise above that level. Like if you are going to have someone from an opposition party, it doesn't mean you're supporting them, but they have to come to realizing that Gabangwe Media is a news outlet. He can talk to anyone. He can talk to ZANU-PF people. Same as Al Jazeera, SABC can interview a ZANU-PF spokesperson. It doesn't mean SABC is now a ZANU-PF project, right? So I really want to thank you so much for providing a fair and balanced analysis. I think this is what we need going forward in Zimbabwe. If we say we want to build democracy in Zimbabwe, we have to look past the ZANU-PF, the ZBC way of doing things, of having every media institution aligned to one party. Yes, MDC might be a big party. I support MDC, but look, there are certain areas that they are weak and they are doing wrong. And I would love people to talk about those issues and like what you do, to try to go out. I know it's not easy because you get a lot of criticism at the end of the day, but I think criticism that is constructive, that builds a nation, is needed. Remember, if MDC gets into power, there's another part that's going to be a ZANU-PF. We don't want MDC, us as MDC people, to be ZANU-PF in the making also. To end up closing other media outlets simply because they are not talking about what we want to hear. We have to be respectful to different views. We say this guy is from Kupe, this guy from ZANU-PF. So long we do it in a civilized way. We don't go around beating each other. We don't go around killing people. Just to be civilized. That's how we build democracy. That's how Democrats work. That's why in America they have debates. They have Trump supporters, they have Biden supporters. That's how Democrats work. That's how media houses operate. They cannot be aligned to a political formation. And I wish you followers would understand this and understand where you're coming from. I think it makes a lot of sense. In fact, you campaigned a lot for Nelson Chamisa in 2018. So how then can you just be called ZANU-PF now? If you're only providing news that is balanced and accurate. Besides, you invite people and they talk. It's not like you're writing articles. People, we come here and we talk. Someone comes and talk. It's not your problem. You are just bringing different views, different individuals. So I just wish your followers would understand that this is how democracy works. At some point, you have to agree that, you know what, this guy is wrong. But you know what, as much as it's wrong, I don't like it. I have to accept that that's his point without fighting, without throwing insults. There are a lot of insults that are coming from MDC people, and I'm worried, like, are we creating another ZANU-PF in our movement? You know, if someone does not agree with you, if you throw insults, it doesn't mean they are going to agree with you because you have thrown insults. It doesn't work like that. If we say we are building democracy, let us lead by example. Let us accept criticism to say, you know, Kamau is right. He shares our party. Then we move on. We speak that error. So I wish us about that. I mean, the followers will understand that media houses are there to give a balanced view. They can talk to anyone they want to.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Tavazo Sambiri, and thank you for the great contribution you're making. I feel that young people sometimes, they just say, I'm in South Africa, and then I don't have to worry about Zimbabwe. And I think that's not the right attitude. So I would like to thank you very much for all the effort you've been putting, including at a very big cost yourself, and contributing on the ground. And I had forgotten about the work that you're also doing with people who have lost their relatives. So the people who have lost their husbands, the widows of MDC, most of them are living in destitution. And yet we have a lot of MDC supporters that have got money.
You know, thank you so much for mentioning this. It has been an eye-opener, I must say. I've been making a lot of calls this past week to Mutoko area because we are targeting to distribute something to Mutoko area this coming week, and it's very heartbreaking. Some people, they have lost cattle, they have lost everything. If you hear their stories, it's so heartbreaking. Like, before I came to you, I was talking to Miss Indira, and she has a lot of needs. She has kids that need to go on, further their education, their studies, and these are people that have been forgotten. And I wish if MDC supporter can give at least 50 cents, and we help these people that have lost everything. You go to rural areas, people are living. I've seen images that are really sad. They have nothing, but they are still loyal and they still support Nelson Chamisa. And this is very important for MDC to understand that without these people in rural areas, without them, without their support, MDC will not move forward. So we need to be there for these people that sacrifice their lives. Imagine an MDC supporter in Mudzi and is proud of it. You know, we have to reward these people. They have lost everything, pardon. They have nothing. Their houses got banned. The other guy was telling me 16 goats. They were slaughtered in 2018 by ZANU-PF people. And they were feeding guys at the best. For ZANU-PF youth. These guys, they've made a lot of sacrifices. And our aim is to bring it out to the people so that everyone understands that, you know, it's not all about Twitter, it's not about everything. There are guys in rural areas there. And here's the magic of it, pardon. If you are going to assist one voter, one MDC supporter in a rural area, the word will travel to everyone to say, you know what, MDC will take care of you even if you lose everything. That means there will be more votes opposing in villages, in rural areas. So it's a very big initiative. It's, I mean, the request for assistance is overwhelming. Like this past week, I think we'll receive over 200, but we're still verifying them. But I believe with the grace of God and with all the support from other supporters, I think we can make a difference. And come 2023, I think we'll be standing at a different level as an opposition, as a movement.
Right. I think we can go on and on, but let us release the people that are watching on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you again next week on Saturday. Thank you very much, Tafazo.
Thank you.